All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. We gave you a little bit of time to take that walk down from the ballroom to join us. But we have an excellent opportunity session for you on durable goods, and introduce our panel. Their bios are in your program, so you can read a lot more information about them, but I'll give you the high points here. We have Mr. Mike Chandler, VP of Customer Fulfillment and Global Ops for NCR. We have Mr. John Godfrey, Director of Logistics and Purchasing for Pirelli Tire. We have Mr. Mike Orr, Senior Vice President, Operations and Logistics for Genuine Parts Company, and Jason Elrod, Logistics Manager for Kubota Manufacturing of America. And I'll be your moderator for this session, and I'm from the Metro Atlanta Chamber. I run our Supply Chain Leadership Council and work to recruit supply chain and advanced manufacturing companies to the region. So we're scheduled to go until 3:15. The format that we will use, we'll have each of our panelists give about a 5-minute presentation overview on the same format that you've heard today, kind of what's working, what's not, a little bit about their company. After they've done that, we'll go through some Q&A from myself, and then we'll mix in your questions as they come up. So go ahead and raise your hand, and we'll get a microphone to you and get your question in as well. So with that, invite our first speaker to the podium.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Mike Chandler from NCR. It's a pleasure to be here. It's an unusual room. There's like a whole empty spot in the middle. Is that fear? Or do I have to do like we do in church? Go to the back of the room and make that the front of the church? I hope not. I hope not. And I pace when I present, so I apologize for that. So I'm going to give you a brief history on NCR. NCR is 128 years young. The simplest way I can describe NCR to all of you is 2 words: cha-ching. Cha-ching. That's what we invented, the cash register. At NCR itself, again, we're a Fortune 500 corporation, 128 years young. We're headquartered here in Georgia. We've recently moved from Dayton, Ohio to Georgia. I'm going to go through an overview of our global network for you to give you a taste of what NCR is. NCR itself is again, a unique company. We helped start a small company called IBM, our #1 competitor. That was 100 years ago. NCR itself is we have a global reach, but we try to create ourselves with a local presence. And I'll show you that in our supply network. When you think of NCR, who is NCR? Across the globe, when you walk up to an ATM, most likely it's an NCR ATM. We are #1 in the world in ATMs, in financial products. We are #1 in the world in retail self-checkout. We're all consumers, and there's just something wrong with us. We don't want to talk to an attendant. We want to walk up to that machine, check ourselves out, and move along. That's what NCR provides to our customers. We're #2 in the world in retail point-of-sale terminals. And for some of my NCR cohorts in the room, they don't like this word, that would be a cash register. A retail point-of-sale terminal is a cash register. That's what you know it as a consumer. But we're #2 in the world. #1's IBM. We are #1 in hospitality point-of-sale terminals after our recent acquisition of Radiant Systems in Alpharetta. You combined the Radiant base with the NCR base, we became #1 in the world for hospitality terminals. I won't explain hospitality other than think of quick service food providers. That's hospitality. We're also #1 in the world in travel kiosks. When you go into Atlanta, Hartsfield, Jackson, again, you don't talk to people. You walk up to a dumb terminal, put your credit card in it, it gives you your boarding pass. Then you go to the counter and turn your luggage over to the attendant. That dumb terminal is NCR. We're #1 in the world for that in travel. There's a smattering of some of our customers. Again, we are a global corporation. When you think of NCR in the great state of Georgia, we've put our corporate headquarters here in Duluth. We have a manufacturing campus, actually 2 manufacturing campuses. One in Columbus that's geared towards our ATM products and self-checkout for the North American market. Then we have Alpharetta, which is the former Radiant operation. We've renamed it HSR, Hospitality and Specialty Retail, so that it's becoming integrated into the NCR family. Also here in Georgia, we have our Global Services Logistics Center down in Peachtree. Inside of that center, we have our Global Learning Center. We've recreated our NCR University where we train our service engineers and our employees. We represent 22,000 people in the corporation, or 22,000 professionals inside of NCR, so they require training. And finally, we have our fulfillment center just outside of Duluth in Suwanee. That's where I happen to sit, and I'm going to show you several fulfillment centers under my umbrella. Again, when you think of NCR from a supply chain perspective, where are we across the globe? Where do we have a presence? We have sales offices all over the world. The map would have measles if I put every NCR office up there. I didn't want to do that to you. What I wanted to show you is, where are we today? For the Americas, we are very centralized in Georgia. I showed you the Georgia presence we have. That's where we support North America and our corporate headquarters. In South America, we have an operation that we've recently built in Amazonia, in Manaus. It's a vertically integrated manufacturing campus dedicated to support our business needs in Brazil. A very large emerging market is Brazil. We also distribute product from Manaus into Latin America. When you get into Europe, we'll start first in Western Europe. We have a fulfillment center in the Netherlands, in Rotterdam. That's to support the distribution and integration of our retail solutions into Europe, Middle East, Africa market. Then you get into Budapest, Hungary. We have a manufacturing campus there that is similar to our manufacturing campus in Columbus, Georgia. It manufactures ATMs as well as sells checkout product for us today. It also has a fulfillment center inside of the factory. So we've consolidated the footprint to support our needs into Eastern Europe from a fulfillment capability for the retail product set, for fulfillment of ATMs and self-checkout directly out of the factory. Budapest supports a global fulfillment capability. So for Southeast Asia, for South Pacific, our retail self-checkout products are manufactured in Budapest and distributed throughout the rest of Asia. When you get into India, we're in Puducherry. It's a manufacturing facility mostly dedicated to sub-assemblies to support the other factories. I'm not going to kid you, it's there because it's low cost. But it makes sense to build sub-assemblies there and then through the logistics channels bring those sub-assemblies into the other factories. We also have a manufacturing facility in Beijing, China. It started out as a joint venture. Some 12 years ago, it's grown into a rather large manufacturing campus. We produce retail products there for consumption in China. ATMs for consumption globally, our low-end ATMs. If you go on the first floor of this building, you'll see an in-the-lobby ATM just sitting there. Not the big bunker that you drive up to when you go to a Wells or Bank of America, but an in-the-lobby ATM. That's what we build in China. Again, it makes sense, it's low cost. From a logistics standpoint, we're not shipping a Volvo across the world. We're shipping a fairly dense product, but the safe doesn't weigh 1.5 tons, like the big bunker ATMs do. We also have a fulfillment center in Abina, Japan. Japan has always been a unique market for NCR. It's been actually one of our largest growing markets outside of the US and Canada. But to do business in Japan, similar to doing business in Amazonia or in Brazil, you have to have a manufacturing presence. Around every one of these manufacturing campuses, we've ringed it with our supply base. With the exception of those modules that are coming out of India, we have our suppliers surround those locations. They may be a kilometer away, they may be 500 kilometers away, but they surround it so that we create a feeder into the facility. The example I gave was a safe. We do not bring safes in from Europe to be utilized in the US. They weigh somewhere around anywhere from a half a ton to a ton for a safe. And the way our manufacturing facilities run, we do a just-in-time manufacturing approach. But we have a flow of material coming in. We couldn't afford an interruption of safes going into the facility. We're not going to carry a large buffer of safes either. We want the supplier to carry that buffer. We want it in the logistics pipe. I personally don't want them in an airplane. I want them in a container coming into the back door of those facilities, because it's cost effective that way. But again, we surround it with a ring to support it. And the reason I'm bringing it up, I know a lot of the folks in the room are going to want to talk about what your capabilities are after the event. We surround it with a ring not to minimize the need of logistics. We use logistics to support the inbound into the factories, and more importantly, the outbound to our customers. Why are we in Columbus, Georgia? If you watched the presentation earlier, if you look at where the U.S. population is, Columbus makes perfect sense for us to deliver ATMs to our customers. Those are the financial institutions that all of us use. But it just makes sense to do it from Columbus, Georgia. Great infrastructure here to move product through, to support our customers' needs so that they can support their customers' needs. NCR has the uniqueness of being one step away from its customer's customer, which is the consumer. We don't go through a retailer or some type of chain environment. We go directly into a Bank of America. And then Bank of America touches you as a consumer. And if that ATM doesn't function, you're disappointed in NCR. You are, trust me, because it says NCR on the front of it. You'll get really disappointed with Bank of America first. And they're going to call one guy. You're a great straight man. Now, actually, they're going to call their executive sponsor. I'm not the executive sponsor for Bank of America. I sponsor a small retailer in Australia called Coles. They would, size-wise, they would eat Walmart in Australia, because they do. But you are disappointed in NCR because you see on the front, it says NCR. The logo is there. It may be all wrapped and say it's pretty Bank of America, but you'll see NCR. And the reason you're going to be disappointed is because you had to listen to me for 10 minutes. Now, from a logistics perspective, what's working? What's working for us is really the partnerships we've created within the logistics base. Again, we've got that global presence, but that local capability, that local touch. So we've developed relationships, not singular, but multiple logistics relationships. And the reason we do that is so that we can flex on each other's capabilities. Logistics providers have capabilities that NCR needs to support its customer base. We don't have all the answers as NCR, but as a collective whole, we do have all the answers. The other thing that's working very well for us has been our global footprint and our overall supply network. When I joined the company 15 years ago, we had one factory that built ATMs for the entire corporation in Dundee, Scotland, and it was done craftsman style. The material arrived on the floor, one operator built that ATM up from raw steel to a fully functioning ATM. Craftsman style manufacturing. Now, so over that 15 years, we've expanded into that global footprint that allowed us to partner better with the supply base. And through that partnering, we've created relationships for vendor-managed inventories, vendor-managed flow, signals that drive back into the supply chain that allow the factories to stay up and running. We don't produce ATMs to stock. We build to order. When that order comes in from a Sainsbury's in the UK, we produce that for Sainsbury's. We don't build them, put them on the shelf, and then pick and ship. We build to order. The other thing that's working well for us is what I've been calling the Georgia advantage. Some of you heard the speech about the Port of Savannah. We actually bring product through the Port of Savannah and we ship back out again. So we use it in both directions. That has worked very well for us. Hartsfield Jackson. There's a reason we have our service logistics in Peachtree City. And it's not because I can put it on a golf cart and bring it to the airport, but that's close. If you're moving spare parts, you're going to move them because a customer is down, you need a replacement part. We have spares locations across the globe, but the primary center is in Peachtree City. Hartsfield Jackson supports us for that. It also supports us as a means of bringing customers through. It's wonderful to have a world-class airport to bring customers into our innovation center, show them what NCR is about, show them what the solution offerings we have. The other thing that's a great advantage that Georgia has brought to us is the university system. We have partnered with the state university system when we created the manufacturing campus in Columbus. They helped us through the recruiting process. They helped us through the employee evaluation and screening, the training development for that. We've since partnered with Georgia Tech. We're doing a supply chain evolution with Georgia Tech. Now we're engaged with Georgia Tech and Coca-Cola, right? No competition with Coca-Cola, but we both need to survive inside of a supply chain world. So the school systems here in Georgia have been wonderful to work with. And finally, members of my team are active in the CSCMP organization. The chapter here is outstanding. They've been very helpful. Again, they welcomed when we brought the new headquarters in, so it's been a great introduction for a lot of the NCR professionals that may have relocated from Ohio to Atlanta. By the way, I didn't. I've been here the last 15 years. Now, what's not working for us? From an emerging market perspective, the growth in the emerging markets. It's just different to do business when you talk about an emerging market. An emerging market, an issue we had in the emerging market last week as an example, coming out of our India factory, we were producing ATMs to be utilized by the State Bank of India. The truck got about 20 kilometers down the road and the rear axle fell off the truck. That doesn't happen here. That happens in emerging markets, though. That's just the way it is. It's a different infrastructure. It's growing. It's coming up to maturity. It's not mature. The other challenge we face is obvious: fuel costs. Fuel costs, fuel surcharges. As a consumer, I don't accept a fuel surcharge. Oh, yes, I do. It's called the price increase. As a provider of solutions, I can't walk up to my customer and say, oh, would you mind? The cost of oil's gone up. I need to charge you another 3 points. What's your answer? No way. So we have to do things to offset that fuel cost. Our customers understand there are fuel costs. They live it because our customers are also selling hard goods to you and I, again, as consumers. They don't want to accept it, so we have to come up with means to offset it. The other challenge we have is lane continuity. Again, when the ocean freight panel was up, they were talking about how wonderful it is to have these gigantic ships and the consolidations they're going through. I'm from Boston, I would say a different term, but I would call that bunk. As a user of those lanes, some of those smaller, non-productive lanes were very productive for I as a user of those lanes. So the continuity in those lanes, I set up plans with my customer. That's what we do in fulfillment. We guarantee deliveries so that units can be installed, stores can go live, restaurants can open. They're all based on schedules. So when someone drops a lane on us, whether it be an ocean lane or a truck lane that we had been accustomed to at a specific service level, it becomes a challenge for us. So it's the continuity there. Find work stoppages. Through social networking, every truck driver in India last year stopped for a week. Did you realize that? It was all done through social networking. They did it on their cell phones. They did it through Facebook and Twitter. They tweeted themselves to strike for a week. It sounds funny, but that's the environment we live in, right? Those work stoppages create challenges to us in the world of fulfillment. And last but not least is natural disasters. Last year was not a good year for natural disasters. We had a small volcano, we had a large tsunami in Japan, we've had floods in Thailand. All of those natural disasters force us to react quickly so that we can support our customers. Last week, the port of Godfrey, which is the port we use to feed into our Budapest facility, was closed for 2 days because of snow. Snow. What's that? I live in Georgia, right? What's snow? But snow closed down. It's a natural disaster. It's beyond our control. So we had to react differently to keep the factory up and running. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jason, my friend from Kubota.
All right, good afternoon. Like I said, my name is Jason Elrod. I'm logistics manager at Kubota Manufacturing of America, which is in Gainesville, Georgia. Kubota Corporation we're part of the Kubota Corporation. It's located in Osaka, Japan. It was founded in 1890 by Bunshiro Kubota to manufacture cast parts. Since that time, we've grown just a bit. We've branched out to provide all kinds of parts for the housing industry in Asia. We build ductile pipes for water systems in Asia. But we're most known for our agricultural products and our engines. And that's what we build in Gainesville, Georgia. In 1960, we developed our first Japanese farm tractor. And then in 72, we established the Kubota Tractor Corporation in California to enter the U.S. market. Then in 88, we built a plant that I work at in Gainesville, Georgia, to build implements, backhoes and loaders for tractors that are built in Japan. Right now, the corporation has about 25,000 employees and made $11 billion in sales last year. Our manufacturing facility is part of the farm and industrial machinery sector, and it is the North American base for all Kubota manufacturing. We have a new manufacturing plant that's about 30 minutes away from us, but we're still the base for North American products. We build lawn tractors, zero-turn tractors, utility vehicles, what we call subcompact tractors, and different implements like grass catchers and backhoes and loaders. Our facility has about 900 employees right now and about 500 down the road at the new facility. We have 3 buildings on our site for a total of over 1 million square feet under roof. 2 of those facilities are for manufacturing, and 1 is a logistics center for cross-docking. Today, half of all the Kubota branded products sold outside of Asia are built in Gainesville, Georgia. Most of our logistics operations have to do with inbound logistics to get the parts from our 270 suppliers to our manufacturing lines and to our network of partners that are located in the North Georgia area. We bring the product into our cross-dock facility, which is one of those buildings there in Gainesville, Georgia. We bring in about 40 to 50 truckloads a day. That includes LTL, local shuttles, ocean containers. That's about 4,000 containers of parts a day. About 80% of that is handheld containers that will go directly to the assembly lines. We have over 10,000 part numbers. By the end of this year, that'll be over 12,000 part numbers. We're constantly growing with new products that we add every year. We currently have 155 employees in the logistics operations plus 35 on-site contractors. In the North Georgia area, we have a team of strategic partners, people that build sub-assemblies for us, and we shuttle those just in time to the line. And like I mentioned already, we also have Kubota Industrial Equipment that builds attachments for our tractors over in Jefferson. The manufacturing operations consist of two buildings. One building builds utility vehicles and one building builds tractors. The capacities are 150 a day for utility vehicles and 300 a day for tractors. Now there's only two ways we deliver parts across the street to the assembly lines. One is through mixed model sequence delivery, where we pick the product and put it in a sequence order for delivery to the lines. The other is by Kanban order. If a user empties a container, they call for more parts and we deliver one container at a time, very small lot production. We build everything in order in mixed model sequence. You know, the old days of building long runs of the same type of tractor are over. We mix the lines, so every tractor going down the line is a different model tractor. Our shipping process is fairly simple. Trucks back up at the end of the assembly line. We roll them off and roll them on the trucks. They either go direct to our dealer network, which is about 1,000 dealers in the U.S., or they will go to our partner across the street, Tatsumi, who will crate those units and load them on ocean containers for exports, or they go to our National Distribution Center, which is also located in Jefferson, Georgia, by Kubota Industrial Equipment. So what is working for us? I can't talk about what's working in logistics without talking about the great quality of our product. Kubota makes a great tractor. They have a great way of listening to their engineers and listening to the people in the field that buy the product. You know, a lot of our dealers are actually farmers themselves, so they know the people in their community and they know what the need is. And so we get that feedback into our engineering team and we produce what the customer wants. But we also build long-term strategic partnerships with all of our suppliers. We try our best to. We try to share with them what we learn, and we believe in having that relationship for long term. We try to operate a safe and rewarding work environment so that we can hang on to the good people that we find, and we expect our partners to do the same thing. But the suppliers have to be responsive. You know, we run no matter what. The line never stops. And I can't tell somebody that I can't get something here. You know, so it's absolutely necessary to be responsive, answer phones, and have a sense of urgency that we need to keep the line going, because there can be no excuses. We're able to do that internally, so we expect our partners to be able to do that too. We've been able to use volume to offset the cost of flow. You know, when you're used to running a batch and queue process and you move to flowing parts, sometimes it seems overwhelming, it seems expensive. But what we've been able to do is go from large volumes of one part to large numbers of parts in small volumes and be able to get the flow going. And once it starts, it keeps going on its own and pays for itself. We have a logistics provider that has helped us and taught us how to optimize our routes, how to optimize our equipment coming in, and we work a lot on packaging design to be able to be modular at a small level so that we can go from any supplier in the network in any route that presents itself, we can cube the truck the best we can, and also our warehouse space and our delivery through the cross-dock to the assembly lines. We are a lean thinking organization throughout the whole corporation. We do everything that we can with flow, and we do a lot of Kaizens. We're passionate about going to the root source of the problem, to not sit somewhere and assume what's happening, but to actually go and see for ourselves and find the root cause and solve those issues. So whether it's logistics issues or manufacturing issues, you'll always find us going to the source and putting long-term fixes on the problem so that we don't see those again. We always consider ourselves competing with perfection so that we don't really look at what everybody else is doing. We always are competing with perfection, and we make ourselves better that way. We are fast now, but we're never fast enough. So we like speed. We like our suppliers to have speed. We like our logistics suppliers to have speed. We try to avoid monuments. That's things that we can't move. We like to be flexible. Even though we may be operating in a building, and if you come visit our building and you come back in 3 months, that building may be completely different, or even sometimes gone, because we change every day. We change something. We build to order in mixed model sequence so that the customer has what they need, the way they want it, when they want it, and so we don't overbuild inventory. We try to keep all of our inventories as low as possible, components and finished goods inventories. And some of our concerns are probably the same concerns that you've already heard and you'll hear later, and some concerns you may have yourself. The exchange rates have hurt us a lot because we buy a lot of product from overseas and we sell most of it here. But the sluggish economy, the increased regulation and fees, businesses being slow to spend money, businesses that can't borrow money, the uncertainty of the things that are to come in the future with taxes and healthcare costs, those are all causing people to be hesitant about the risk. The transportation capacity being tight. I'm afraid that there's going to be a day where I get a phone call that we can't get a truck. I don't want to be the highest bidder, but it's going to be even worse if I can't move freight. So those are the kind of things that really worry us. And as we move into these emerging markets and we go there to find suppliers, we always have to worry about the security and the infrastructure in those areas. We had a shipment from Colombia a while back that they couldn't make it to the port because the road had washed out and there was just no way to get the product to the port. So we're always having to find ways to mitigate those situations. And of course, material costs, oil, but also plastics and steel for our products. Competition from overseas, there's two sides to that. These emerging markets are building tractors, so that's competition. But some of their quality is poorer than ours, but they're learning pretty quickly how to build tractors that compete with ours. In a lot of cases, because the guy next door is building our parts that we send over there. So there's a concern that we're teaching our future competitors how to be our competitors. And then finally, our workforce is a struggle to find folks that have the work ethic. Okay. Our workforce is, it's tough to find folks that meet our expectations and that we meet their expectations. The work ethic that's coming to us now is maybe better than it was 5 years ago because there's a lot of folks in the market. But we worry about what's going to happen when the economy comes back if they have opportunities elsewhere. So we're trying to train those people the best we can and give them incentives to stay and make them part of our culture. So I look forward to answering some of your questions. Thanks.
Hi, I'm John Godfrey. I'm in charge of logistics for Pirelli Tire North America. Before I give a quick introduction to Pirelli Tire, and go through what's working for us in logistics and also what's not working for us. I want to show you a quick video just to introduce our company and our products.
Ours is a robust industry with a long-standing tradition, one in which we move now, as always, with an innovative point of view. Changing terrain, accelerating the rhythm of our evolution, playing new roles with a unique style, and a vocation for the sustainable production of tires that reduce environmental impact without compromising on the performance that is part of our DNA. Charting the future of our industry based on a new concept of high-tech industrial settlement that enables us to export our know-how throughout rapid development economies, where the growth of our premium positioning is even stronger. Adapting ourselves swiftly to the inclinations of every market, with products in constant evolution, looking to the future with responsiveness and flexibility without ever losing control.
So Pirelli Tire. We're the fifth largest tire manufacturer in the world. Hope everybody can read that. We have plants in 13 different countries around the world. We're based in Milan, Italy. And we're known for our state-of-the-art product and our racing heritage, which you saw a little bit of. Pirelli is recognized for our commitment to sustainability and environmental awareness in our production processes and in the products that we manufacture. We manufacture tires for the original equipment and the replacement market for cars, trucks, motorcycles. Our principal original equipment customers in North America are Ford, GM, BMW, Mercedes, Chrysler, and Fiat. And we're forecasted to sell this year in the NAFTA region around 8 million tires. Our presence in Georgia is very significant. First of all, we have our headquarters and R&D facility and manufacturing facility in Rome, Georgia. This is a specialized robotics factory. We make around 400,000 tires per year in manufacturing cells. We also have our largest DC, or warehouse, in the U.S. in McDonough, Georgia. It's a 440,000 square foot facility. It serves the entire eastern United States. We also have warehouses in other parts of North America. And in this McDonough warehouse, we bring in containers from 8 different countries. This represents about 95% of our business. So we manufacture in Rome, but it's only 5% of our sales. And we bring in more than 5,000 containers per year through the ports of Savannah and Charleston. So what's working for Pirelli, both the company and in logistics? First of all, in the last year, we've really made a focus on our premium products. These are high-performance, ultra-high-performance tires for passenger cars, for SUVs, and for motorcycles. These are higher-margin products, so we've been defocusing or de-emphasizing our production on our commodity products. This year, and in fact next month, we're opening a factory in Mexico. This is going to be our second factory in North America. It's going to be producing by 2015 around 5 million tires. And why are we coming? This is nearshoring, and we're doing this local for local project. We have many benefits that we're going to see from this. First of all, we're going to have lower stock, both in our warehouses and on the water. We're going to see transportation cost savings. We're going to have increased manufacturing flexibility. And of course, we're not going to pay any customs duties because it's NAFTA production. Another thing that's been a focus for us for the last few years, especially during the increase in fuel costs several years ago, was focusing on intermodal usage. We can save about 50% on our transportation costs when we're having to transport product from Georgia to California and vice versa, or directly to our customers. A recent project that we've had over the last year is stabilizing our inbound flows to our DCs. What does this mean? This means working with our drayage companies. We have dedicated dray companies that we work with. It also means pulling containers at night, and it means making sure your warehouses are close to the ports, not in the middle of the country. 2 years ago, we started a network re-engineering project, and through this project, we've closed 5 warehouses in the last 3 years in the United States, and we've been combining our original equipment and our replacement business into the warehouses that we have. So we've really centralized basically our supply for the entire eastern United States in McDonough, Georgia. We have other warehouses in the NAFTA region in Southern California, in Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver, and Mexico City. Something that we've been working with our 3PLs on is what we call variabilization, and this means minimizing the fixed costs that are associated with running a warehouse. So we want to have as much of it as the variable cost structure as we can. Back during the economic crisis several years ago, we found that we had certain warehouses that were 50% saturated, and we had other warehouses that were completely full. So it just didn't make sense to have a lot of half-full warehouses in our market. Another focus for us has been visibility. Visibility along the whole supply chain. We have a couple of projects that we're working on around this. One is what we call a DOT tracking label, and this is a unique barcode that is put on each tire, on the bead area of each tire during the manufacturing process. We can then trace that tire from manufacturing to a warehouse and to a final customer. If the tire ever gets returned, we can track it there as well. We also have something we call the slot management tool. This allows us to monitor all of our global supply flows of finished products from factories to warehouses globally and make sure that we're having smooth flows and we can track every single container. And then we have regional transport control towers that are monitoring these flows using the slot management tool. Our largest customer in the replacement channel in the U.S. Is Discount Tire, and something that they started several years ago was instead of us delivering tires to individual retail stores using LTL shipments, we started shipping to their cross docks full truckloads, and then our tires are combined with the tires and wheels of other manufacturers, and then they do milk runs with another 3PL to deliver directly to the stores. This is about a 50-50 cost split between an FTL and LTL, and it really works out quite well. And of course the retail stores are happy because instead of getting, let's say, 10 different deliveries every week, they're getting one just-in-time delivery to their retail store. In the past, several years ago, we used to have a warehouse in the Northeast United States, and we found that we could serve the Northeast region of the U.S. without having a warehouse. We do this through pooled shipments. So we drive a full truckload line haul up to New Jersey, then break it at a pool point, and use a regional LTL carrier to deliver LTL shipments around the Northeast. CTPAT. This has been very important for Pirelli. Like I said, we live off of our imports. It's 95% of our business. CTPAT, we're Tier 3, and we joined the program when it first started back in 2002. So being in the program has not only increased our internal security measures, but it's also given us a great partnership with customs, and when we've had issues, we know exactly who to talk to fix them. And MRP, this is something that really surprised me when I started working at Pirelli, and that is we had this factory in Rome. We built it 10 years ago, and for 9 of those 10 years, we were doing all the MRP in Excel spreadsheets. And finally, last year, we have an SAP ERP. We installed the MRP module of SAP, and now we've eliminated a lot of air freighting of raw materials. We have eliminated a lot of overstock, and we've eliminated a lot of obsolescence of raw materials that we had in the past just because people were managing things manually, and it didn't work very well. And lastly, what is of concern for me in logistics? And there are a lot of things here. First of all, and I think a lot of these points have already been mentioned, but I'll go back through them. First of all, fuel volatility. And in the tire business, this is not just transportation, it's also the demand for our products, because if suddenly fuel spikes up, people stop buying trucks and SUVs and they want to go to smaller cars. And unfortunately, our tires are designed and built for specific vehicles. So back during the fuel spike back several years ago, we found ourselves stuck with a lot of tires that went on pickup trucks and SUVs that weren't needed. Also, something specific to our industry is the U.S. import tariffs on Chinese tires. Pirelli does have a factory in China, and it partially supplies our market. And 3 years ago, a 35% punitive tariff was put on Chinese-produced tires. It's now down to 25%, but we do have a concern going forward that this tariff may be reinstated. In addition to fuel volatility, we've had volatility in our raw material prices, especially with natural and synthetic rubber, which are two key components for tires. I think slow steaming has been mentioned several times today, but what does this do? Especially for our long pipeline sources like China and Romania, this increases the amount of supply that's on our books in the pipeline from these plants. In addition, we've had a lot of pressure, and I think most companies have, to have leaner finished goods inventories, and especially in our original equipment market, this can be problematic because it means that we might have to air freight tires or pay for some expedited land transportation to make sure we're not shutting down a car factory. And let me tell you, if I'm having to air freight tires, we're basically losing money there. Hours of service. Hours of service, we found has started affecting us because we have some just-in-time deliveries we have to make to the Midwest and Canada, and we're making these out of our Donna, Georgia facility. And we sometimes find that the drivers are late because they run out of hours. There's some traffic, there's bad weather, and this is affecting our costs there. Labor, Georgia's a right-to-work state, and Pirelli is committed to working in a non-union environment, so this is a concern for us. Outsourcing, we outsource a lot of work to our 3PLs, but just because we outsource something to a 3PL, we still have to maintain critical logistics, competencies, and know-how in our organization, otherwise it's impossible to manage the 3PLs correctly. And around 3PL contracts, we want to have a partnership with our 3PLs, and typically we try to sign 3-year contracts. We think 3 years is the correct balance between partnership and then being flexible if we need to expand or we need to close the warehouse down. So this is sometimes a concern for us. And the last one is just around Mexico security. We're building this new factory in Mexico, and with all the violence and security issues that are occurring on the border, I have a lot of concerns. This will be something new for me that I'm going to work with. So thanks for your time. I look forward to it.
I'm Mike Orr with Genuine Parts Company. We were founded in 1928 in Atlanta, Georgia. We're a diversified wholesale distributor of automotive parts, industrial parts, office products, and electrical parts. We do not manufacture, although we do have 6 remanufacturing facilities in North America, primarily automotive parts, starters, alternators, rotating electrical gear that we'll actually remanufacture and redistribute. We're a leader supplier in fragmented end markets, so the common theme in our business is supplying fragmented end markets, automotive parts, industrial parts, office products, and electrical parts. Our common real theme for the business is supply chain. We actually manage complex supply chains for our customers. We're a critical partner to our customers. We provide innovative solutions for their supply chain needs. For example, in office products, we do fulfillment for large national retailers. A lot of their e-commerce work is fulfilled out of distribution centers operated by S.P. Richards. For automotive parts, we have 58 distribution centers, over 6,000 retail stores, although the primary part of our business is commercial-based. Automotive parts is a time-sensitive business. Delivery times are about 30 minutes, expectation from the consumer, and so it's very time-sensitive delivery, and there's over 400,000 items that are available for immediate delivery anywhere in the United States every day. We also provide technology solutions. As you know, technology continues to drive industry forward, and so we have to provide, I'll call back-end technology solutions for our customers in a variety of supply chain areas. Just to give you a breakdown of our business model, about half of our annual sales, we're about a $12 billion corporation in revenues, about half of those are in the automotive parts group. And in that we consider automotive aftermarket, heavy-duty truck parts, as well as we'll call import label replacement parts in that automotive segment. Our next largest segment, and growing quickly, is Motion Industries with industrial parts. In Motion Industries, we'll provide 4 million items, not SKUs, but items, 4 million discrete items to the manufacturing sector, manufacturing plants, food processing plants, municipalities, things that what we call keep America running. They got their start in bearings, but they've expanded to a variety of products, linear bearings, pneumatics, hydraulics, belts, anything required to keep the factory running, and that's their forte in the space. The next largest is office products. Again, that's a wholesale office products distributor. You'll probably never see the name on any marketing material or on any kind of truck. It's a behind-the-scene fulfillment business that supplies independent office products dealers as well as large national retailers in a variety of fulfillment items, about 30,000 items. And they actually act as a supply chain link for large retailers to provide a greater breadth of product offering. And our smallest business segment is electrical connectors and cables, although it is a very strong growth platform for us, and they supply a variety of products, about 25,000 items, to essentially OEM manufacturers with electrical connectors and cabling. In Georgia, we have 5 distribution centers, about 1 million square feet of distribution space spread across our entire network. We have 50 retail stores that are company-owned, and those are the Napa retail stores that you'll see on the corners. Now, of the 6,000 stores we have, only about 1,000 are company-owned. The other 5,000 are independently owned. They're not franchised, they're independently owned, and we have owners that have anywhere from 1 store to 50 stores. So there are some very large owner-operators of stores in geographic areas that are strong partners with a Genuine Parts Company. What you'll learn about Genuine Parts is we are focused on the small entrepreneur-type business owner, supporting them in growing, helping them grow their business in their space. It is also our corporate headquarters, so we have our Genuine Parts Company global headquarters for the corporation is based in Atlanta. It's also the headquarters for S.P. Richards Company, which is in Smyrna, Georgia, and EIS has their corporate headquarters in Atlanta as well. The only corporation headquartered outside of Atlanta is Motion Industries, which is in Birmingham. In Atlanta, we also have our shared service centers, and we have 3 of them. The first one is the Employee Shared Service Center that does all of our employee data, payroll processing and data management for our employees. We have an Information Technology Shared Service Center in Atlanta, as well as an Accounts Payable, Accounts Receivable Center up in Duluth that processes all of our accounts payable company-wide. We have about 5,000 employees in Georgia spread out across our network between the retail stores, distribution centers, the headquarters staff of the various business units. So we have a strong presence in Georgia. Some of the supply chain challenges that we face from my perspective, a very high level, but the first one really is just the pace of change. I think everybody experiences that pace of change where things that used to take years now take just weeks or days. And we see it in 4 areas. The first one is technology. Just the pace of change of technology has a direct impact on our supply chain and our business. The second one is source of supply. So from a distributor standpoint, as you listen to the manufacturers who change their source of supply, they move a plant from the United States to Mexico or from Europe to China, that changes our supply chain network. So generally every month there's a source of supply chain from a supplier to us, a manufacturer who's changing their source of supply due to consolidation. It could be expansion, but mostly it's consolidation that changes our supply chain network. The competitive market is also a challenge for us. We see this in all of our segments where our competitive advantage becomes eroded due to technology changes, and for us to compete, taking cost out of our network becomes a burning platform priority for us. And I'd say the last one is just consumer awareness. You know, we are faced with, especially in our consumer-facing businesses of office products and automotive where, customers will use their smartphones to price shop you instantaneously. So having the correct market price is critical for us, and as a wholesaler to those markets, being price sensitive is critical, and it's becoming almost a daily battle to make sure you're price competitive in various markets around the country. The other challenge we see is just supply chain complexity and global expansion. We announced that we are buying a large company in Australia that is about $1 billion company, and we do a fair amount of global sourcing. So our supply chain continues to get more complex with proliferation of SKUs. On the automotive platform, the platforming of cars is kind of eroded, and cars are more specialized now. So we carry replacement parts for cars 20 years old and cars that are brand new. So the proliferation of SKUs continues to impact our supply chain. The other change that we're seeing that concerns me is the workforce skill set. As we go forward, we need really knowledge workers. We don't need just, I'll call, laborers that have, just brute force labor. And getting knowledge workers continues to be a challenge for us across many markets in the United States. And the last challenge that we see is security, both physical and cyber. As we deploy more technology in our fleet, we have a fleet of 10,000 vehicles with driver management systems, using RF devices in our warehouses. We have seen greater instances of security breaches with people hacking through those various devices that we have deployed into our networks, into our computer systems, and it's a never-ending battle to stay one step ahead of the cyber thieves. What's working are some successes that we see as a company. First is the diversification we have in our business model. So with those 4 distinct platforms we talk about, we can enter adjacent markets pretty easily and provide greater offering and services to our customer base, and that seems to help us grow our business and weather some of the financial crisis that we've experienced in the last couple of years. The other change that we've made recently is going to common system platforms. We are a Manhattan Associates house for supply chain solutions. Prior to that, we had distinct operating systems in our businesses, and the ability to collaborate was minimized. So by moving to common systems, it helps from a training, employee retention, and actually just efficiency perspective. And the last thing for us is just really our employees, the teamwork. Our people do make a difference. We're proud of our talent at Genuine Parts Company, the people we employ, and they really help us make a difference in our business. With that, Bob?
All right, now for the fun part. Do some questions here, and we'll take some questions from the audience as well. So if you begin to think of those questions, just raise your hand and we'll point it out and get this portable mic to you with new batteries. A lot of times the supply chain has been characterized kind of as the shock absorber for the business. It allows the business to respond and still meet the customer demands, even though there are some changes in the world. Can you guys talk about, how do you mitigate the effects of rising fuel prices in your operations and your supply chain networks, and kind of balance that out as that takes effect? Any volunteers first, or we start at the end with Mike?
I was going to volunteer anyways. So when you look at the change in fuel prices, right, again, the fuel surcharge impact that happens to all of us up here, it forces us to go back into our internal processes. Where else can we drive out cost or waste? Right? Someone brought up lean, right? Tim Wood, right? The driver under the lean methodologies. We're always looking for that. Where are we driving excess transportation, excess inventory, excess movement, waste? We're pushing all of that out. The benefit of that lean improvement is used to offset the fuel surcharge. Again, I said it earlier, I can't afford to pass it on to our customer base, right? So we have to make ourselves more efficient other ways. So the simplest approach is simplicity in your overall operations, using lean methodologies. And one other piece that we do inside of NCR is we focus on driving the air out as well. Sucking out as much, or utilizing as much space as possible inside of that container. Maximize the container.
Yes?
Yeah, I mean, a couple of things. First of all, putting as much long-distance transportation as you can, intermodal versus just on the road. Not providing an over-service to your customer that's not required. So if you have to enforce a customer freight policy or something like that, I mean, make sure you're not spending extra money there. Something that we were looking at is eliminating transfers between warehouses that are unnecessary. Maybe it's better to ship out of lane to a certain customer. And I guess the last thing is just move as much volume as you can to full truckload, getting it out of the LTL system.
Yeah, that's the same thing we do. I mean, we can't do anything about it, but find ways to reduce cost to offset those increased costs. So we look at everything from increasing the cube, creating packaging where packaging may not have made sense before. We can go back and look at those parts again and try to find different ways to squeeze cost out of the system.
Yeah, just a couple things. You know, we have a fleet of 10,000 vehicles, so we put a lot of focus on more fuel-efficient vehicles, taking weight out of those vehicles. It seems elementary and simple, but you know, getting more efficient vehicles is a big driver for us to reduce the amount of fuel we consume. We've also made a very discrete shift to more intermodal shipments. Sometimes they're a couple days longer, and we used to be caught by that paradigm of what's an extra day of inventory, and for us that's a big number. But what we really found when we did the analysis is it's very little inventory increase, but tremendous fuel savings increase and cost decrease as well. The other thing that we've done is we've done more collaboration where we run our own private fleet of vehicles for delivery at night, and we started to realize that our trucks were not always fully utilized. We focused on service first, and then we've now come to an agreement that we can share vehicles with other industries that do nighttime delivery. All of our deliveries are made at night to maximize the use of that vehicle, lower our costs, but also conserve fuel. So there are a lot of things we can do to offset the rise in fuel prices, although we think there is a tipping point. For us in our business, as fuel prices rise, we see miles driven decline dramatically, which miles driven is a driver for our revenue, replacement parts for automobiles. So there's a tipping point for us that we're concerned about.
Well, it seems like with fuel prices, it's kind of caused the pendulum of globalization to kind of swing back. We've also seen the rise of wages in China make them a little bit less competitive in the manufacturing space, and we here in Georgia have seen kind of a trend of a little bit more manufacturing coming back to Georgia. So can you guys comment on the whole issue of backshoring, and you mentioned Mexico, nearshoring. How real is this, and is something your companies are considering where the U.S. is, again, a little more competitive in manufacturing?
And again, what we've done at NCR is we have onshored manufacturing here into Columbus. But more importantly, what we've looked at is how do we drive the content of that local presence. We're still going to produce product in China. We're still going to produce sub-assemblies in India. It's a question of cost, but how do we maximize the content of that capability from the low-cost regions, bring it into our localized final assembly facilities, and just maximize upon it. So that, again, drive the waste out, bring in the assemblies. We call them top boxes. If you broke the ATM into two pieces, the top box would be the electronics, and then the base would be the safe and the media handling. Bring those in from the sub-assembly facilities, do the finalization, customize it for our customer, and then deliver it to them. So we inside of NCR, we have carried the banner of Made in America. We've been pushing the insourcing with the governor's office specifically, but it's been only to drive local presence, maximize that capability.
Yes?
Yeah, it's to be closer to the United States. I think people are realizing that their costs associated with being in China, being in India, places like that. And definitely for us at Pirelli, I mean, we've recognized that there are these costs of security and flexibility and being able to produce the product mix that we need at the exact moment closer to our customers. And plus you have the currency fluctuations. 50% of our product right now is coming from Brazil. And the currency value is increasing there. It just makes it more and more costly to be making something in Brazil and bringing it into the U.S.
Yeah, for us at Kubota, we're moving more parts into the U.S. now and other countries besides Japan because of the exchange rate. And we'll continue to build more tractors in the U.S. too. We're moving plants here now, or adding additional plants to produce tractors here.
And Bob, I'd just say, I mean, to me, this trend is just a natural progression of the United States is becoming a low-cost country to produce. We're very productive here. Currency always plays a role. I see capacity in Asia being allocated to domestic consumption. So, you know, the slack capacity that was in China 20 years ago has been consumed. There's slack capacity in the United States, so it's just a natural migration of products moving to the lowest cost of source. And the fact that they're consumed in the U.S. becomes a bonus to that. So I think it's a trend that's going to take place. I don't think it's going to be a tidal wave, but I think it's a trend that's going to take place over the next decade.
Great, thank you. All right, any hands go up? Any questions from the audience? We got one first hand up in the back there, Mark. So I'll rephrase it for those who didn't hear. She asked if anybody of the gentlemen on the panel here are on the boards of their companies and the importance of supply chain in the boardroom.
I report into the senior vice president of the corporation. He's called the chief operations officer. So I don't sit on the board, but my boss does. So yes, absolutely. I've had the pleasure, by the way, of NCR announced their results yesterday, and our CEO mentioned me by name. So I have the ability to reach into Bill Nudie, who's our CEO and president. So logistics is key. Bill understands that as the CEO. So does our board. So it's used as a sales tool, but it's also used as a lever to manage the business.
Bob, I just comment that I don't sit on the board either. We're a publicly traded corporation. I do report to the vice chairman of our corporation, and supply chain, as I mentioned in my comments, is becoming a focal point in our business. We hear on our competitors' earnings call, they make supply chain advances that make them more competitive, help them grow their business. So we are astutely aware of the supply chain, the role of the supply chain in making the corporation successful, and it's getting a lot more visibility inside the Genuine Parts Company.
I don't sit on the board, but I do report to the CEO.
No, I don't sit on the board, but I'm sure Kubota Corporation in Japan really understands the value of logistics. I've seen it firsthand.
Absolutely. All right, any question? Here we go, front lady in the brown.
My name is Vicki Hudson. I'm based in Atlanta, and I asked a somewhat similar question this morning in the retail panel, but this is regarding nearshoring. So our company deals with the cross-cultural challenges that result from nearshoring and offshoring. And a lot of our clients, they open a plant in Mexico or India, and they really struggle with the cultural issues, especially in communication and collaboration, which affects their bottom line. And so I wondered, especially for John, but any of the rest of the gentlemen, what your strategy is for preparing your staff for that challenge.
Well, yes, this factory in Mexico is new, and we have a lot of our Latin American staff that have been in Brazil or Venezuela or Argentina working on the project, but we're integrating the Mexican organization into our new NAFTA region, and yes, there are some challenges there culturally.
Any other comments? All right, one quick one here, and then I'll go question from me.
Okay, mine is related to perhaps the first question. The risks. No one mentioned monetary risks. You're all multiple countries with multiple currencies. You don't all trade just in currencies, in US dollars, do you? Do you hedge on that? Do you deal with that?
So the question is, does anyone, in terms of the monetary risk with currency fluctuation, does any of the companies hedge?
I believe we all face the challenge of FX, currency exchange. And in the case of NCR, yes, we do. We hedge currency because we deal in local currency. We are a U.S. corporation. We report in U.S. dollars, but we do hedge on currency. Quarterly, actually.
We do too.
And I just comment, we hedge currency, we don't speculate. So there's a difference, right? So we hedge only to the effect of our exposure in those local markets with the explicit goal of just being neutral.
Several of our panelists mentioned in their remarks about visibility and technology and speed, pace of change. I wonder if you can comment on just as supply chains become increasingly complex, what is the role, how are you leveraging technology? Is it really enhancing your business and, taking out costs in the business? Or, sometimes you hear these implementations that take longer than expected and it becomes a barrier in some cases. So what's your kind of feeling on technology and how it's impacting and helping or hurting?
Well, Mike nailed it. He's going through a technology transition. NCR is still going through a platform transition. As we've continued to expand into the global markets, you have to get away from, and John said it as well, get away from running your business on Excel. You have to be on one common global platform. Again, when I joined the company 15 years ago, we had one common platform. It was 54 unique instances of that platform. So we are now on one common platform for 80% of our market. It's the last 20% that we're still driving towards to get into that environment. Some is regulatory that creates challenges. You have to work through those regulatory issues. But the largest barrier tends to be cultural. The not invented here. And when you reach into the smaller emerging markets, that's a barrier that's brought to the forefront, that we've never done it this way in pick an emerging nation, pick an emerging market. And you can't allow that to get in the way. You have to work through it. You have to work with it at the same time.
I think it's very important being in a global company to, at Pirelli we run SAP. We're, I think, now on a single instance of SAP. And it's very important that you have one common source of information for the whole company to run on globally. When we do have things that are outside SAP, they are global add-ons or something like that everybody is using, because when you start having a lot of local organizations with their own IT programs, in the end, you don't have that one source, which is so important.
And Bob, I was going to just comment that once we realized that any IT project takes twice as long and costs 3 times as much as they told you, then we kind of got to a level playing field. But I think the key thing John pointed out is having one source of information has become the key differentiator for us, and that's having a good database management system so that SKU translation tables and part numbers and all those things that are aligned across the globe, instead of having discrete part numbers in different markets, help. So really having an investment in a platform or an infrastructure for IT becomes I'll call a critical success factor for having a strong supply chain.
So quick follow-up on that. Everyone, the iPads and, the Palm, all our smartphones. I mean, how much in the supply chain have you guys been able to leverage sort of the mobile devices? And is that something near or still pretty far off or already here?
I would say that it's here, Bob, but it's evolving. So we do support the iPad, and we use smartphones in a lot of our operations. So it's here, it's evolving, and it'll be mainstream in a couple of years. We won't even think twice about it.
I agree with Mike. It's here. We have to accept it. We have to embrace it. And again, in the case of NCR, our customers are using it with us.
And I just make one other comment, Bob, that we use a lot of RF scan guns in our facilities, and as we hire newer employees, they want to bring their own device, and so we're learning how to I mean, they think our guns are old and, clunky, so they're only a couple years old, but they just want to use their own smartphone, so they...
Wait a minute, Mike, I got an app for that.
They'll just scan their barcodes with their smartphone, so we're learning how to interface with multiple devices to say, you can bring your own device and hook onto our network and just perform the duty.
All right, we got time for one more question. Do we have any burning questions from the audience? Quick hands, or I'll get it. All right, guess it's me. All right, so workforce, everybody mentioned it, is important. People are important to your quality of your business and being successful. Can you guys comment on, how you're maintaining, how you're attracting the quality worker, and are there any challenges in terms of the skill sets or retaining that worker? I mean, we hear about unemployment rates being high, but at the same time, we also hear anecdotally that the workers don't have the skills that you all need in critical roles. So if the panel could comment on that.
Well, we've decided to go into the local high schools and start an internship. We bring high school students in the last part of their senior year in to work side by side with the folks on the assembly lines or in the cross dock, in hopes that after that program's over, they'll stay. These folks have decided not to go on to college. We also do the same thing with career fairs at the universities in the area to try to get folks to come out, because we don't get a lot of people coming who want to be forklift drivers and truck drivers as a career anymore. So it's really hard to find those people. Sometimes it takes 10 or 20 people to find one good person that you want to have on as a team member for the rest of their career. So when we get those folks, we try to take care of them and train them as much as we can.
Yeah, I have a comment. I mean, I was discussing this last night with somebody at the reception. If it wasn't for the news, I wouldn't know that there was an unemployment problem, because trying to hire professionals and people to work in the warehouse, it's hard to find good quality candidates who are ready to work and who have a good work ethic, and they're going to be good associates to have in the company.
But the challenge tends to be the knowledge that we're looking for, right? So we have high expectations on the knowledge that resource is going to bring into us, the benefits they're going to bring into us. So what we've done is we've engaged the university systems here in Georgia for a program called Fast Start, where people go through the Fast Start development, and then they're presented to NCR as potential candidates. Because that knowledge requirement that we all have, it tends to be in slivers. What you get from the Fast Start program is they bring you a more rounded individual. Excuse me. So we use that to help entice people to come into NCR. Because I'm with John at times, what unemployment issue do we have? We tend to have people knocking on the door all the time. But it's a question of how qualified are the candidates. I highly recommend anyone in the industry, if you can reach into the Georgia education system, whether it be through the high schools or through the universities, utilize that as a development ground. And the people see it as a benefit. The individuals see it as a benefit, and they see that we as corporations are willing to invest in them.
Mike, final comments?
Yeah, Bob, I'd just say that we're more of a traditional company, so we've learned that, and myself especially, that there's a lot of talented people, especially as they're coming out of the high schools and universities. They have a little bit different expectation of how they want to do their work. They're more technology driven and more savvy than we see in the general population. So as we become a little more flexible to their needs, we're not having any trouble retaining people, but it is still a challenge to find IT and knowledge workers. There's just a big growth of demand for their services, and it's hard to find them.
So please join me in thanking our panelists today.